A1, Beginner. This is where every English learner starts. Paul remembers this stage well. At A1, a person knows only the most basic words and phrases. Things like, hello, my name is, I am hungry, where is the bathroom? Sentences are short. Vocabulary is small. Understanding a native speaker talking at normal speed feels almost impossible at this point, and that's completely normal. The A1 level is not about fluency, it's about survival. Can you introduce yourself? Can you ask for something simple? Can you understand a basic sign or instruction? If yes, you're already here. The framework came from the Council of Europe in the early 2000s, a simple idea that the world needed one shared way to measure language ability. Before that, every country and every school had its own system, and nothing matched. The CEFR changed that. Today, it's used by universities, employers, and language schools in over 40 countries. A1 is the foundation of that entire system, small, simple, and more important than it looks. A2, Elementary. At A2, things begin to open up slightly. A person at this level can handle simple, familiar situations: ordering food, buying something at a store, asking for directions, talking about their daily routine. Sentences are still fairly short, but there's more control over them now. Paul thinks of A2 as the level where English starts to feel like a real tool rather than just a collection of memorized phrases. You're not just repeating things you learned, you're beginning to put words together on your own, even if slowly. Understanding is still limited. Fast conversations are hard to follow. Accents can throw you off completely. But the ability to communicate in predictable, everyday situations is genuinely there. Many people stay at A2 for a long time, especially if they're learning English without being surrounded by it. Progress here depends heavily on how often a person actually uses the language outside of lessons. B1, Intermediate. B1 is often described as the turning point. This is the level where a person moves from surviving in English to actually functioning in it. Paul would say this is where things start to feel real. At B1, you can talk about familiar topics, your work, your interests, your experiences, with reasonable confidence. You can understand the main ideas of a conversation even if you miss some details. You can write a simple email or message and be clearly understood. Travel becomes much easier at this level. Even simple work situations feel less stressful. There's still a gap between understanding and full fluency, but the gap no longer feels impossible. The B1 level is roughly where international English exams begin to test real communicative ability rather than just vocabulary and grammar rules. It's the stage where a learner starts to sound like someone who knows the language, not perfectly, but genuinely. B2, Upper Intermediate. B2 is where English stops being an effort and starts becoming something closer to a habit. At this level, a person can hold a real conversation with a native speaker on a wide range of topics: work, news, opinions, travel, culture, without constantly stopping to search for words. Comprehension improves significantly. You can follow a television show or a podcast in English without subtitles most of the time. You can read an article and understand not just the words, but the meaning behind them. Paul thinks of B2 as the level where personality starts to come through in a second language. At A1 or A2, you sound like you're reading from a page. At B2, you start to sound like yourself. Many universities and employers around the world consider B2 the minimum level for professional or academic work in English. It's the level that opens real doors. C1, Advanced. At C1, the language becomes fluid. A person at this level speaks with ease and accuracy in almost any situation: professional, academic, social. They can express complex ideas clearly, follow fast native conversations, understand humor and tone, and adopt their language depending on who they're speaking to. The small hesitations and careful word searches that were present at B2 are mostly gone now. Paul describes C1 as the level where thinking in English becomes more natural than translating from your first language. Words come more naturally now. Less searching, less waiting, less effort. reading long texts, writing detailed reports, presenting ideas formally. All of this happens with genuine confidence. C1 speakers are often mistaken for near-native speakers, especially in writing. Reaching this level typically takes years of consistent exposure and practice, not just study. It's the result of living with the language, not just learning it. C2. Mastery. C2 is the highest point on the CEFR scale. It does not mean a person knows every word in the English language. No one does, not even native speakers. What it means is that a person can use English with the same range, precision, and flexibility as an educated native speaker. They can understand virtually everything they hear or read. They can express themselves spontaneously, naturally, and with great accuracy. Subtle differences in meaning and tone are clear to them. C2 speakers notice the difference between words that mean almost the same thing and know exactly which one fits the moment. Paul notes that reaching C2 is genuinely rare, even among people who have studied English for many years. It requires not just exposure, but deep engagement with the language over a long period of time. Some people reach it, many come close, but the journey from A1 to C2 is one of the most quietly remarkable things a person can choose to do.